Welcome to this recording about tools for collaborative writing, and mostly I will be talking about Google Docs and Zotero today. Collaborative writing projects with synchronized editing can be really handy because we can avoid different versions circulating. There's no waiting time or version conflicts. And we can see real-time changes of our collaborators, which can be really engaging and motivating. There can also be an interactive and mentoring effect when we are editing simultaneously. However, tools can be really one barrier in this journey of collaborative and synchronized editing. And to minimize barriers, it's really important that everyone is comfortable about these tools, and that can reduce frustration and facilitate effective collaboration during this process. And as available tools for synchronized collaborative editing, we have available Google Docs and Zotero, which is very intuitive and an interface that comes pretty close to Microsoft Word. And probably many of you are also able to use Zotero with other writing tools, such as Word or LibreOffice. There are also other options, such as Overleaf, Fidos Writer, and Manubot, and these might be simple to use for people who are already familiar with LaTeX syntax, but this might not be the case for everyone. So today we focus mostly on Google Docs and Zotero, which are pretty easy to learn. And today we will be talking about how we can set up these tools, how we can be writing and citing using Google Docs and Zotero, but then of course also editing and commenting. And I will also talk a little bit about different strategies of managing this process of collaborative writing. And I will start at the beginning with how we set up a Google account. We can just simply Google, create a Google account, and you will get to exactly this window here where you can follow the steps. And there is no limit to the number of Google accounts you can have. So if you are worried about protecting your personal data that might be associated with your private Google account, or if you do not have enough storage space, or if you simply want to keep things tidy and keep things from, for example, this cost action in a separate Google account, that's no problem. You can simply create a new Google account. And once we have done that, or we have access to a Google account, we can navigate to the home of our Google Drive. Google Drive is the central place where all our Google documents are collected, or any other files that you will upload onto your Google account. And then simply you can go to the home button on the left side menu, and this will lead you to the option of setting up new documents here above the home button. And then you can simply select here the Google Docs. And there are, of course, also other options which can be helpful in other contexts. But here we will talk mostly now about the Google Docs, which is a simple document. And then once we click here, we have a Google Docs, which we then can name as we want, and everything as well. However, there's also the option of uploading a Word document into your Google Drive and editing and sharing this. And I would strongly recommend to not do that because it will limit the functionality that we have later on, and it can lead to data loss. So this we should not be doing. So always create a true Google document. Do not upload other file types into the Google Drive as documents to be used in collaborative writing. Then, how do we find these documents that we have set up? So here I'm just showing the home page of my Google Drive, and you can find the link to get to exactly this place for your own Google Drive down here. And then I have a search window here, so I can simply view all the files. I can sort them by date or when I have accessed them. But we can also simply search here. So I know that all my documents that are associated with my sub-working group are all called something choice agency. So then simply I can search for choice and I find all the associated documents exactly here. Now we have set up our document and now it's time to invite collaborators and set our editing rights. So here now you see what I see when I click on the share button. Then I see who has permanent access here. These are our three leaders and co-leaders of our sub-working group. And everyone else has simply access via a link. And now we can decide which kind of access people have. So you can see that the owner and the two co-leaders of this group, we have editor rights, and anyone else has commenting rights, or also sometimes called suggestion rights. So then you can suggest and comment, but you cannot edit without track changes. So these are essentially the two options, and you can also add everyone who is in your group up here with their email address and then set individually their editing rights. And we can be quite intentional about what kind of editing rights people have, which we want them to have. And it can avoid accidents if we give people rather suggestion rights if we do not want them to edit without track changes. And yes, I think this was everything necessary to say about this. Hopefully we will talk later a little bit more about this. Maybe one thing to know is anyone with so if you share a link and then you change the rights on the link, you cannot have two links, one with editing rights, one with suggestion rights. You have only one link, and the kind of the feature of the link will change as you change it here. So you have to make a decision about what kind of rights you want to give people with the link, and if anyone should have a separate, different ability to edit, then you need to add them with their email address and set it individually for that person. Then we can have another look at the different editing modes. Again, here, if we click on the editing field, we see these three different modes. First, we can have the editing option. This is editing without track changes. So we will not be able to see who has suggested a change. We will simply see the new text. Then editing in suggestion mode will suggest track changes, but we will see who has suggested them. There will be automatically a comment added to the text that will show who has suggested the change and what the change is. And then third, we have the view option, which can show us what the document looks like if all changes were accepted. And these are the last changes. So if we have multiple track changes to the same text, then simply the Google document will choose something to show to you, most likely the last suggested version. But this is something also to be aware of when we are many people editing the same document. And yeah, if we set the rights directly for everyone to be only able to suggest but not to edit, then there is no danger of people editing without track changes. But if it's possible to edit and everyone needs to remember individually that we need to be in suggestion mode, then I would suggest that you make that very clear somewhere on the top of the document. in bold red or something, please only suggest, or please whatever kind of change you want people to make, because it's quite easy to start editing and then to remember after a while, oh, I was supposed to keep the track changes, but I didn't. Also, a few comments about comments in Google Docs. It's a little bit different from how we are used to it in Microsoft Word. So first, if you suggest text edits, they will also add automatically a comment. So they will accumulate quite a lot of comments that one needs to sort through regularly. We do that as the subgroup leaders and co-leaders to accept little changes that do not require further discussion pretty frequently. Comments can be removed by clicking on the X. It will still be possible to see them in this comment tab that is a feature of Google Docs. And we can still search them, but it will be less easy to see them. They will appear here under the resolved comments. And this X is different than in Word because it will actually close the comment. Instead, no, it will actually delete or resolve the comment and put it out of sight. Pretty much it will be only in the comment tab. It's not only kind of hiding the comment as it is in Microsoft Word. So all comments are searchable. They cannot be deleted completely, but they can be quite difficult to find, especially if we went through a lot of comments already. And there's no functional difference between comments in the editing or in the suggestion mode. So this is both possible when you are in suggestion mode, and it's also your comments show up in exactly the same way in whatever mode you are. However, we cannot see the comments if we are in viewing mode. So that's something to be aware of. If we change the rights of people to only view the document, they will not be able anymore to see the comments usually. And the viewing mode can be quite useful for reading when there are many track changes and comments and we only want to read the plain text. And this then looks a little bit more minimalistic than the other options. So then it will look like this. And this kind of mode window will change appearance a little bit. However, we can still just click on this field with the eye here beside the share button, and then we can return to suggestion or editing mode as usual. But the appearance of the whole screen will change a little bit once you enter the viewing mode. Then what about contributions from people who do not have a Google account? So it is the most easy for this kind of work if everyone actually has a Google account, but there might be various reasons why people might not have a Google account, and that's fine. It's still possible to edit. However, you can only access via the link, or you might experience some limited functionality. One of them is that you might appear as anonymous. So make sure that your name appears when you make contributions and when you write text, or that you somehow track what you contributed and let someone know, so that these changes and your contributions can be accredited to you afterwards. Because if there are multiple people who write anonymously, then it can be really difficult after a long time to remember who wrote what. So this can be a little bit tricky. So usually you will get an invitation to your email, whatever email you provide, and then you can access via that link. But of course, you cannot find the document in your personal Google Drive, because if you do not have a Google account, you will not have a Google Drive. Then we will continue with the version history and track changes in Google. So we have a full history of all edits for 30 days. However, so we can find this here, where there's this little clock beside the commenting field. And here we can go back to see all the changes that were made during the past 30 days. However, this is not super convenient to use. And also, of course, after 30 days, we lose access to the past changes. So this will not cover our needs typically for a manuscript that is being edited for multiple months. Therefore, what we are doing is to download a copy or to make an online copy of the document after every major editing iteration. So this will typically be around once every month or so on. And then we just copy a document, write in the header what the document is, when the copy was made, and then we just save that in a safe folder. Important is also then we change the rights on that document that should not anymore be edited to viewing, so that there can be no accidents with people editing in the wrong version. So I would suggest to keep the stable version that people are editing maybe the same, and then to make a copy and to put that copy away safely with the date written on it, to avoid any kind of confusion with people editing in the wrong version. Or you can also copy, you can also download a copy somewhere else onto your desktop with your normal kind of backup solutions. And this can be helpful for future queries about contributions of people, and of course to keep a history beyond 30 days. Now I will move on to using Zotero together with Google Docs. And first, I will walk you through how we can set up Zotero to use it in its full functionality. And to be able to do that, we need to follow multiple steps. We need to register and create an account, download the desktop version onto our computer, set up a group library or join a group library if we are a participant and not someone who is organizing the group library in Zotero. And then we also need to synchronize our desktop and group library. And then we have all set up to use Zotero to actually do in-text citations. So as a first step, you can simply follow the link down here to go to zotero.org and register an account with your email and set up a username for yourself. Then once you are on the Zotero page, you can go to the Home tab here and download the desktop version of Zotero. And conveniently, Zotero is available for all the main operating systems. So this includes Windows, Mac, and Linux, which is great. So this will be usable for mostly everyone, independent of their operation system. And then you can log into your desktop version as you have registered before with your email and your chosen password. And then you need to choose the option allow synchronization between the online Zotero and your desktop Zotero. To then set up a shared library, so a group, you go here on the group tab, and then you simply select create new group, and then you can manage members, and here you can invite members of your working group to have give everyone access to your Zotero library. And here it's again a little bit the same. You can manage the rights of different members to have full editing rights and to be able to delete and add references, or you can limit the rights so that people could only, for example, cite but not be able to add references or to delete something. And now there are multiple options to add references into your Zotero library so that you will be able to cite them afterwards. And one of them is this Zotero connector. This you can install on your Firefox or Google Chrome, where this little puzzle piece is here, which is for installing extensions. And here you can simply click on extensions, and then to find more extensions, you simply search for Zotero, and you find the Zotero connector, which you can add to your Firefox or other web browser as Google Chrome, for example. And it makes adding references really quick. So I use that for my personal Zotero library. However, I find it quite easy to add duplicates by accident. So you might add the same paper that some other people have already added to that same group library. So I actually prefer not to use this in my group libraries. What I do instead is to add references by identifier. So I go into my Zotero group, and then I go to add references, but I do not use the manual way, which is this plus sign here. I typically use this little magic thing here, which is called add by identifier. So you click on here, and then you can add an ISBN or a DOI simply into this field, and then Zotero will find for you the reference. And of course, it's a good idea to check if everything is correct. But also, like this, you can check first whether the reference is already here. Because if there are 20 people, for example, all collaborating on one Zotero library, it's very likely that maybe someone else has already added the same reference. So this we can check beforehand, and then go from here and add the DOI and add the reference. There is also a function to remove duplicates. However, I think it would be great to not add them in the first place. And this also, we will come back to this a little bit when we discuss how to manage the Zotero library. So then here we see an example of a shared Zotero library. Here are a couple of references, and we see that some papers here are already duplicated. So we should be careful to not add duplicates. Then we should check if the info we added is correct. And of course, as I already said, we can decide which kind of role group members should have in this Zotero library. So now we are all set to insert actually a citation in Google Docs, which is simple. We just go to our Google document, and on the top there will be, on the top bar, there will be this tab which is called Zotero. And then we can simply click on Add Edit Citation, which will then open this pop-up window, this quick format citation, where you can then enter the name of the first author, for example, and find it. It will pop up below, and then you can choose the right reference here. You can change the style of citation across the whole document later on, so you don't need to worry too much about this. And all the common citation styles are available for Zotero. So the same as for other reference managers as well. And there is also a help page and common question page about the integration of Zotero and Google Docs, and I added the link on the bottom here of this slide. So now we are at this point to actually insert a reference, and now I will show you an example of my own kind of citation here and what can go wrong. So now I'm entering here the name of the authors of the paper I want to cite, and great, the paper comes up. But there are now 3 options here for the same paper. And this is because in my private library, I have not been very tidy and I have added duplicates. So I have this paper twice in my personal library, and then the paper also appears in the shared library of this working group. And what happens if I choose one of the private library citations here, then the reference will disappear as soon as someone else updates the document. And this, of course, is highly unfortunate because then people will not know anymore what I have been trying to cite, and everyone will forget what was the citation, and it will be difficult to track it back. So this is definitely something we want to avoid. So always we need to be careful to choose the correct citation of the group library so that the citation will remain. Also, one note about these duplicates, they are a problem later on when we finalize the document and then we have a bibliography which will have multiple of the same paper in there, and then it might get really messy if we start to maybe delete them. So then later on it will be much more work. So it's better to keep it tidy from the start. And then entering the bibliography is exactly the same approach. We can just simply go here to Zotero and then add bibliography wherever we want to add that in the document. And this is usually the moment when we find out that we had many duplicates that are then getting annoying because the same paper appears 5 times and is called A, B, C without any necessity. And this brings me to the strategies for reference management. So there are different strategies of different groups that collaborate in this way. So there are some groups which have more responsibility of some selected members or the lead team. And then there are other groups which have more equal responsibility for all group members. Where everyone adds their own references in the library and cites them as well in the text. And so our group has mostly chosen the approach here on the left, where selected members have more responsibility for the references. However, other people can make it much more easy for us to actually finalize the citations. And I'm going to show how we do that. So typically we put the DOI either in the comment or we add the link to the reference name. So here the blue text, simply if we hover over that, then we will immediately get the link to the document, which is great because then I can simply copy this link, copy the DOI, and then it's really, really easy to add that to Zotero via this identifier I have shown you before. And then it really takes only 2 seconds to do that, instead of having only, for example, the title of the reference in the comment, and then we have to go and search the reference or Google the reference. So this I would prefer not to do. But if I have the DOI already, then it's not so much work. And which kind of strategy you choose will depend a lot on how your writing strategy also looks like. So some groups text looks something like this, where distinct authors write distinct parts of text. And then it might be easy that everyone takes care of their own references. There might not be so much overlap, and there might it might be feasible for everyone to simply take care of their own references. But then there are also groups where the writing process looks more something like this. So this is certainly the case for our group, where we write and co-write as a group, and everyone is writing and editing and adding references. And this is why we have chosen the approach that a small group of people is mainly responsible for the Zotero library and citation handling at this point in the working process. One further thing to consider, if you only allow people to be in suggestion mode in your Google Docs, then there will be not the option to actually access the Zotero functions in the Google Docs. So Zotero will turn gray and will not allow to add any references to the Google Doc. So this is also something to consider when you decide on your strategy to manage references and to manage the document itself. Dependent on what you choose about your strategy for editing the document collaboratively, I would suggest to set some guidelines which you could write out at the start of the document. And some things that could be useful is who adds references, who is supposed to add references, and in which way maybe. If you are not supposed to add references directly, what are you supposed to do instead? So, for example, add the DOI in a comment or link it to the text. Then are people supposed to be editing or work only in suggestion mode in case they have the choice? And when are you supposed to make actual track changes in edits, or when would it be better to write a comment instead, or to write below the text to have this, to avoid to have these multiple track changes on top of each other, which can make it difficult to make a decision. Also, one thing that I would add is when is the editing time? When is the window of editing time, and when do you want people to stop editing? And of course, here then it can be really helpful when the deadline hits and you want people to not edit anymore, because now you are going to do the work of sorting all the edits out. You can simply change the access for people so that they can indeed not edit anymore or need to contact you to be able to suggest further changes. Oh, here I'm just showing how people could insert a link on top of just simple text. So this, you just mark the text, you right click, and then you can go on insert link and simply add the DOI, for example, there. One further barrier we have identified is for people to find their Google documents. And this, we need to make it really easy so that people actually have easy access to these documents, especially if you're in multiple working groups. You might have a lot of links flying around, and it's really good to keep this very easy for everyone. So one option is, of course, to have the main links in a document or note-taking app of your choice. So this would be something that people do individually for themselves or have it as a bookmark in their web browser. But then one thing that we have found very helpful was to include links in all the emails that we send out from our group. So we have a lead document which contains all our document links, all our Zoom links and email templates. And the email templates automatically contain the link to all the necessary documents that people need. So meeting minutes as well as the main manuscript link, so that if people get an email from us and they remember, oh yes, this is my working group, I should really be working on that manuscript sometime soon, they immediately also have the link there to access the document. And how can we facilitate the use of these tools in our groups when people have maybe different levels of comfort with these tools? So the first suggestion is to check what the level of comfort is in our sub-working group. So one idea would be to do a poll or to send out a Google form, such as this example here. For example, in the first meeting of the group, where everyone just simply says, how comfortable are they? Do they have the necessary accounts already? And would they be happy to be responsible for different tasks related to references, for example? Then also we should make a fitting strategy for how we want to write and cite, and kind of discuss this with our group and find a good strategy that works for everyone or for most people well. And finally, we can be intentional and mindful about what to share and which rights to give at what point in time, just simply to avoid accidents. If we are many people having access to these libraries, then there's of course also a higher chance of some accidental deleting or things like that. And then once we have identified what people are not comfortable with, of course, we also want to take the next step and help everyone to become comfortable, so that they are able to use these tools without them becoming a major barrier for contribution. Thank you very much. That's everything from me. Feel free to contact me if you have further questions, and also thanks to our funders. Bye.